Playing with Power MTG. Powerful cards, powerful formats. The latest Dragon Shield Halloween playmats and sleeves are here. We love this year's designs, so we said, why not do a Halloween CEDH pod? We got the team together, sleeved up some super spooky decks, and we will see how they do tonight. Dragon Shield creates Halloween and Christmas sleeves and playmats every year. If you want to pick them up, check out our link in the description below. Any purchase you make also helps the channel, so thanks a lot. Now, let's start out by showcasing our fighters this evening. First, we have Alex, piloting Kirik, son of Yawgmoth. This deck seeks to cast Kirik and use your life to reanimate and loop spells with Skirt's Familiar to win the game. Alex's opening hand contains a Command Beacon, Imperial Seal, Mana Vault, Mind Stone, Swamp, and his London Mulligans are Heartless Summoning and Chainer Dementia Master. Next, we have Ryan, piloting Kaalia of the Vast. This deck seeks to put a demon, such as Razaketh the Foul-Blooded, onto the battlefield quickly and use it to combo off and win. Ryan's opening hand contains a Luxury Suite, Opposition Agent, Scrubland, Doom Whisperer, Soul Ring, Peer into the Abyss, and a Swords to Plowshares. After that, we have Cal, piloting Yawgmoth, Thran Physician. This deck seeks to win through looping undying creatures to draw a lot of cards and win the game. Cal's opening hand contains a Homeward Path, Jeweled Lotus, Cut Down, Swamp, Cult Conscript, Evernight Shade, and his London Mulligan is a Bolas' Citadel. Finally, we have Drake, piloting Nekusar, the Mind Razor. This is a Wheels and Storm deck looking to gain advantage through wheel effects and payoffs. It also wins with backup lines of Oracle, Breach, and Brain Freeze. Drake's opening hand contains an Echo of Eons, Time Twister, Seething Song, Windfall, Mana Crypt, Polluted Delta, and an Imperial Seal. Without further ado, let's begin the spooky, scary skeletal scavenge. Alex found a Razor Blade in his Halloween candy and gets to start us off. Alex draws a card for turn and plays a Swamp. He casts Imperial Seal. He fetches up a card onto the top of his library and loses 2 life. Alex passes. Ryan draws a card for turn and plays a Luxury Suite. He casts a Soul Ring. He passes. Cal draws and plays a Swamp. He casts a Jeweled Lotus. He cracks his Lotus to cast his commander, Yawgmoth, Thran Physician. Cal ends his turn. Drake draws and plays a Polluted Delta. He casts a Mana Crypt. He cracks his Polluted Delta, pays a life, and fetches up an Underground Sea onto the battlefield. He casts a turn 1, Mystic Remora. Drake ships the turn to Alex. Alex draws and plays a Command Beacon. He casts a Mana Vault. Remora triggers and Drake draws. He pays 6 life to help cast his commander, Kirik, son of Yawgmoth. Alex gives the turn to Ryan. Ryan draws and plays a Scrubland. He passes. Cal draws and plays an Urza Saga, getting its first counter. He casts a Blood Artist. He moves to combat and attacks Alex with Yawgmoth. Alex takes it, and Cal ends his turn. During his upkeep, Drake wins his Mana Crypt roll. Also in his upkeep, he pays for his Remora. He draws and casts Imperial Seal. In response, Ryan flashes in an Opposition Agent. Drake sighs, and Agent resolves. Ryan fetches up an Ad Nauseam from Drake's library into exile, and then Drake loses 2 life. With nothing else, Drake ships the turn to Alex. During his draw step, Alex takes a damage from his Mana Vault. He moves to combat and attacks Ryan with Kirik. Ryan takes it, and Alex gains 2 life. All through, Alex passes. Ryan draws and plays a Badlands. He casts Drake's Ad Nauseam from exile. Remora triggers, and Drake draws. Unfortunately, Drake didn't find interaction, and Ad Nauseam resolves. Ryan reveals a Demonic Tutor, Twin Flame, Skirk Prospector, Tainted Pact, Lion's Eye Diamond, Verdant Catacombs, Wishclaw Talisman, Deflecting Swat, Burnt Offering, Ephemerate, Polluted Delta, Mox Diamond, Marsh Flats, Imperial Seal, Children of Corliss, Razaketh the Foul-Blooded, Windswept Teeth, Enlightened Tutor, Grim Monolith, Godless Shrine, Felwar Stone, Plateau, and a Silence, deciding to stop there. Ryan casts Mox Diamond, Remora triggers, and Drake draws. Diamond resolves, and Ryan discards Windswept Teeth. He casts Lion's Eye Diamond, and Drake draws off of Remora. He casts Burn Offering, sacrificing Opposition Agent as an additional cost. Remora triggers, and Drake draws. Ryan adds 3 black. He casts Demonic Tutor. Remora triggers, and in response, Ryan holds priority and sacrifices his Lion's Eye Diamond, discards his hand, and adds 3 red. Then Drake draws off of Remora. Unfortunately again, he still cannot find what he needs, and Tutor resolves. Ryan fetches up a card into his hand. He casts Underworld Breach. Remora triggers, and Drake draws. Breach resolves, and Ryan follows it up by escaping LED from his graveyard. Remora triggers, and Drake draws again. He cracks it, adding 3 white. Ryan escapes Silence. Remora triggers, Drake draws, but doesn't find what he needs. Silence resolves, locking out Ryan's opponents this turn. Ryan escapes LED, and Drake decides not to draw from Remora anymore. Ryan cracks his LED, adding 3 black. He escapes Doom Whisperer. He activates Doom Whisperer, paying 2 life, surveilling 2, putting both into his graveyard. He activates Doom Whisperer, paying 2 life, surveilling 2 again. He escapes Children of Corliss. He sacrifices it, gaining back all of the life he lost this turn. Now completely refilled, Ryan begins to surveil until he can find his win. He activates Doom Whisperer, paying 2 life, surveilling 2. He does this 2 more times, paying 4 more life, surveilling 4 more cards into his graveyard, surveilling Dualcaster Mage with his final iteration. Ryan escapes LED. He cracks it for 3 red. He escapes LED again and cracks it for 3 more red. He escapes Twin Flame, targeting Doom Whisperer. He holds priority and escapes Dualcaster Mage. Dualcaster enters and copies Twin Flame. Twin Flame targets Dualcaster Mage. Ryan presents a loop of copying Twin Flame and Dualcaster Mage over and over, creating more and more copies with haste each time. He moves to combat, attacks with his army, and Ryan wins the game. What a fun and fast game. The team decided to go again. In this game, Cal brings back Yawgmoth, Thran Physician, and his opening hand contains an Agadeem's Awakening, Treacherous Pit Dweller, Dark Ritual, Imperial Seal, Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, and his London Mulligans are Imp's Mischief and Sightless Ghoul. Drake brings back Nekusar the Mindraiser, and his opening hand contains an Imperial Seal, Mana Vault, Simian Spirit Guide, Command Tower, and his 3 London Mulligans are Felwar Stone, Molten Psyche, and Demonic Betrayal. Alex brings back Kirik, Son of Yawgmoth, and his opening hand contains a Dark Ritual, Dauthi Voidwalker, Entomb, Necromancy, 2 Swamps, and his London Mulligan is a Knight Incarnate. Ryan brings back Kaalia of the Vast, and his opening hand contains a Savine's Reclamation, Marsh Flats, Underworld Breach, Emergent Zone, Dockside Extortionist, Demonic Tutor, and a Mayhem Devil. And Cal gets to start us off. Cal draws and plays an Agadeem the Undercrypt into play untapped, paying 3 life. He casts Imperial Seal. He fetches up a card onto the top of his library and loses 2 life. Cal passes. Drake draws and starts off by paying 2 life to cast Jataxian Probe, targeting Ryan. He looks at Ryan's hand and draws a card. He plays a Command Tower for turn. He casts his own Imperial Seal. He also fetches up a card onto the top of his library and loses 2 life. Drake ends his turn. Alex draws and plays a Swamp. He passes. Ryan draws and plays a Marsh Flats. He ends his turn. Cal draws and casts a Mana Crypt. He plays Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx as his land for turn. He casts Dark Ritual, adding 3 black. He casts his commander, Yawgmoth, Thran Physician. He casts Death Greeter. Cal ships the turn to Drake. Drake draws and exiles Simian Spirit Guide from his hand, adding a red. He casts a Mana Vault. He casts Lion's Eye Diamond. He sacrifices LED, discards his hand, which includes Echo of Eons, and adds 3 blue. He flashes back Echo of Eons. In response, Alex casts Dark Ritual, adding 3 black to get it out of his hand. Also in response, Ryan cracks his Marsh Flats, pays a life, and fetches up a Badlands onto the battlefield. Then everyone shuffles their hands and graveyards into their libraries and draws 7. Next, Drake casts Jeweled Lotus. He plays a Verdant Catacombs for turn. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Badlands onto the battlefield. He casts his commander, Nekusar the Mindraiser. Finished up, Drake passes. During his draw step, Alex draws an extra card and then takes 2 from Nekusar. He plays a Swamp for turn. He passes, discarding to hand size. During his draw step, Ryan draws an extra card and then takes 2 from Nekusar. He plays a City of Traders for turn. He casts Grim Monolith. Ryan ends his turn. During his upkeep, Cal wins his Mana Crypt roll. During his draw step, he draws an extra card and takes 2 from Nekusar. He plays an Ancient Tomb for turn. He casts Mox Diamond, discarding a Swamp. He casts Dauthi Voidwalker. He activates Nykthos, adding 5 black. He casts Araya, First of Locthwain. She enters and each opponent loses a life and Cal gains 1. He casts Gravecrawler. Ayara triggers, draining his opponents, and Cal gains 1. Cal activates Yawgmoth, paying a life, sacrificing Gravecrawler, targeting Nekusar. Death Greeter triggers and Cal gains a life. Then Nekusar gets a -1/-1 counter and Cal draws a card. Nekusar triggers and deals the damage to Cal. Next, Cal casts Reassembling Skeleton. Ayara triggers, draining his opponents, and Cal gains 1. All finished up, Cal passes to Drake. During his draw step, Drake draws an extra card through Nekusar. He plays an Ancient Tomb for turn. He taps his Ancient Tomb to help cast Jeska's Will, choosing both modes, targeting Alex. He adds 7 red and exiles Vampiric Tutor, Goblin Electromancer, and a Chrome Mox. Then Jeska's Will is exiled under Dauthi Voidwalker. Drake casts Vampiric Tutor from exile. He fetches up a card onto the top of his library and loses 2 life. He casts Overmaster, drawing a card. He casts Harnfell, Horn of Bounty. He activates Harnfell, discarding Gemstone Caverns, exiling Spire of Industry and Cabal Ritual. He activates Harnfell, discarding Flusterstorm, exiling Flooded Strand and Waste Not. He activates Harnfell, discarding Pact of Negation, exiling Talisman of Indulgence and Frantic Search. He thinks for a bit, and then decides that it's all or nothing. He activates Harnfell, discarding Notion Thief, which is the last card in his hand, exiling Mox Diamond and a Bloodstained Mire. Drake casts Talisman of Indulgence from exile. He taps it to help cast Cabal Ritual from exile, adding 3 black. He casts Waste Not from exile. He casts Chrome Mox from exile, not imprinting, just in case he can bounce it in a later turn. With no other actions, Drake has to pass the turn. During his draw step, Alex draws an extra card and takes 2 from Nekusar. He plays a Swamp for turn. He casts a Mana Vault. He pays 6 life to help cast his commander, Kirik, Son of Yawgmoth. With the father and son duo now on the board, Alex passes to Ryan. During his draw step, Ryan draws an extra card and takes 2 from Nekusar. In his main phase, he floats mana from his City of Traders. He plays a Vault of Champions, sacrificing City of Traders. He casts a Lotus Petal. He cracks it to help cast his commander, Kaalia of the Vast. Ryan ships the turn to Cal. During his upkeep, Cal wins his mana crypt roll. During his draw step, he draws an extra card and takes 2 from Nekusar. He plays a Swamp for turn. He casts Butcher Ghoul. Ayara triggers, draining his opponents, and Cal gains 1. Cal taps his Ancient Tomb to cast Desecrated Tomb. He activates Nykthos, adding 10 black. Cal casts Gravecrawler from his graveyard. Desecrated Tomb triggers, and Cal creates a 1/1 flying bat. Ayara triggers, draining his opponents, and Cal gains 1. Then Gravecrawler enters, Ayara triggers again, draining his opponents again, and gaining 1 again. Cal activates Yawgmoth, paying a life, sacrificing a bat, targeting Nekusar. Deathgreeter triggers, and Cal gains 1. Then Nekusar gets a -1/-1 counter, and Cal draws a card. Nekusar triggers, and Cal takes a damage. He activates Yawgmoth, paying a life, sacrificing Gravecrawler, targeting Nekusar again. Deathgreeter triggers, and Cal gains 1. Nekusar gets a -1/-1 counter, and Cal draws. Nekusar triggers, and Cal takes the damage. Cal casts Carnival of Souls. He casts Gravecrawler from his graveyard. Desecrated Tomb triggers, and in response, Alex casts Deadly Relic for its alternate cost, targeting Yawgmoth. Keurig triggers, and in response, Cal activates Dauthi Voidwalker, sacrificing it, casting Drake's Vampiric Tutor from exile. Deathgreeter triggers, and Cal gains a life. He fetches up a card onto the top of his library and loses 2 life. He then activates Yawgmoth, paying a life, sacrificing Butcher Ghoul, targeting Nekusar. Deathgreeter triggers, and Cal gains 1. Butcher Ghoul's Undying triggers, and Cal returns it to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. Desecrated Tomb, Ayara, and Carnival of Souls all trigger. Cal loses a life and adds a black through Carnival. Then each opponent loses 1 and Cal gains 1 through Ayara. Then Cal creates a bat through Desecrated Tomb. Ayara and Carnival of Souls trigger again. Cal loses a life and adds a black, then each opponent loses 1 and Cal gains 1. Then Nekusar gets -1/-1, dies, and Cal draws a card. Then Keurig's trigger resolves and gets a +1/+1 counter. Then Deadly Relic exiles Yawgmoth. Then Desecrated Tomb's trigger resolves and Cal creates a bat. Ayara and Carnival of Souls trigger, Cal loses a life and adds a black, then each opponent loses 1 and Cal gains 1. Finally, Gravecrawler resolves, Ayara and Carnival triggers, Cal loses a life, adds a black, then each opponent loses 1 and Cal gains 1. Next, Cal casts a Jeweled Lotus. He cracks it to cast his commander, Yawgmoth. Ayara and Carnival triggers, Cal loses 1 and adds a black, and then each opponent loses 1 and Cal gains 1. Cal activates Yawgmoth, paying a life, sacrificing a bat, targeting Butcher Ghoul. Deathgreeter triggers, and Cal gains 1. Then Butcher Ghoul gets a -1/-1 counter, removing its +1/+1 counter, and Cal draws a card. Cal activates Yawgmoth, paying a life, sacrificing Butcher Ghoul, targeting Keurig. Deathgreeter triggers, and Cal gains 1. Butcher Ghoul's Undying triggers, and Cal returns it to the battlefield. Desecrated Tomb, Ayara, and Carnival trigger. Cal adds a black, loses a life, then each opponent loses 1, and Cal gains 1. Then Tomb creates a bat, Ayara and Carnival trigger again. Cal loses 1 and adds a black, then each opponent loses 1, and Cal gains 1. Then Keurig gets a -1/-1 counter, and Cal draws a card. Cal presents a loop of sacrificing his bat to Yawgmoth, negating the Butcher Ghoul counter, then sacrificing the Ghoul, draining each opponent when it enters, and drawing a card. He does this over and over until his opponents are dead, and Cal wins the game. Ladies and gentlemen, what a fun and spooky set of games tonight. Congrats to Ryan and Cal on their wins. They both were able to piece together fun and intricate combos to pull out their wins, which was really fun to see tonight. In Game 1, Ryan was able to get a perfect hit off of Opposition Agent. He turned that into a win through some well-sequenced gameplay and just a bit of luck from Drake's bad draws through Remora. In Game 2, Cal was able to pull together his Rube Goldberg machine over the course of a few turns. By the time anyone wanted to interact, it was too late because the machine was already running. If anyone wanted to interact again, he could just do it over top in response to close it out. It was intricate, complicated, and really fun to see. A big thanks to Dragon Shield for sponsoring today's video. If you like the Halloween-themed playmats and sleeves tonight, be sure to check out our link in the description below. Also, be sure to check out their Christmas products as well for the upcoming season. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more like this, be sure to subscribe. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Tune in next time when we duke it out to see who will be king of the competitive EDH table. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.